Mr. Spirit, firstly, man, let us know about how you hooked up with hardware for the first.
Well, I've known Clayton for a long time now. Like from back in the day, kind of when I used to write reviews for for Echoes and Music Mag, and like I used to talk to Clayton then, and then and he was hearing some of the tunes that I was making, and kind of started up from there, basically.
So what is it about hardware that makes you want to kind of release music with them, you know what I mean, come down and play at their parties and stuff?
It's defined, it's like, you know, it knows where it's at, and kind of, the music's very in keeping to a lot of things I do anyway, so it's like, you know, it's a kind of, it's a good link, it's like, yeah, definitely.
How important do you think it is that labels and artists, because obviously hardware and yourself have been around for a long time, how important do you think that you carry on kind of supporting each other?
Very, very. I mean, in this day and age, I mean, there's a lot of labels out there, and like, to be honest, a lot of them don't have much identity, so it's like, it's always somewhere where you kind of like, hardware is kind of something that you know what you're going to get. It's got a good following, and I'm always happy to to keep coming back.
What was the first track that you put out on hardware?
First thing I think it was the thing with digital called Crash on the Armageddon LP. Yeah. It's weird. It doesn't feel that long ago, but it was quite a while. It was about 5-6 years ago. I know, something like that. Yeah, something, yeah, definitely. Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about the album tune for Carpe Diem, Scrabble. Tell us firstly how long it took to do.
You know what? In the end, it took probably about a week to do, because I actually started it in the States and finished it back in England. So I was doing working on the laptop. And then it was like, it was nearly ready. And then I flew back and kind of was jet lagged for a few days, and then got back into it. And then I think I finished it just on time to make it on the album. yeah. So about a week or so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you get asked to do a track for hardware, or you end up making a track and you think, you know what, I might pass this to these guys, what kind of track is it, or do you have a vision in your mind that you're going in?
There's an element of a vision, but at the same time, it's kind of, it's generally something that's harder, and it's something that kind of like I have to be in the mood to do. I have to be if I'm going to do something more like angry and aggressive, then I've got to get myself in the swing of it. I mean, as I say, it's one of those where kind of what's kind of fitted in before and up to now has kind of been along the lines of what I do sometimes anyway. So it's very easy, kind of like easy relationship.
How important do you think it is that hardware got the regular club nights down at the end for kind of like testing new material, and obviously you can come down, you play, you hear all your new bits and
yeah. I think it's very important. It's like, it helps to give that extra identity. It helps to kind of like, bring it all forward. Helps to see what the sound is. In a club atmosphere, it's kind of like you come to a hardware night and you kind of pretty much know what you're going to get. So the turnouts are always good, and like the vibe's always good, and like the music's pretty good as well. So like it's a good night, and as I say, it helps push it forward and like bring it, keep it further in people's minds.
If you could touch on just a couple of things that you think have kind of helped for hardware to kind of keep at the top of the tree, what would they be?
I think the main thing actually is that Clayton's definitely got an eye. Clifford's definitely got an eye and ear for for picking out people that that even if they're not big now, they're kind of they're always that's on the verge and definitely growing. I mean, if you look at who's actually been on the label, you have to look at it and say that that the majority of big names, between like hardware, TOB, whatever, have been on there in one time or another. So yeah, Clayton's definitely got a good ear for spotting some talent.
Tell us about your early link with hardware. What was the actual connection?
I think the first time that we were kind of talking about making music for hardware was it was either chapter 2 or final chapter, which came out on Timeless, and then and from then I know Clayton was into those, and then kind of we talked more about it, and then and that actually wasn't that long, probably only a year and a half before it finally happened with Crash.
Was the early material that Hardware putting out around that time kind of getting to you as well, making your ears prick up, so to speak?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's, as I was saying earlier on, there's a lot of people that back then that have gone on to be huge, basically.
You've worked in shops, you've had labels, pretty much you've done everything on the D&B map, so you can kind of empathise. Give us a little glimpse of because we're talking 15 years. It's a bit of a struggle, basically. Look to the people who don't know who think, you know what I mean?
It is. It really is. It's it's definitely a bit of a struggle. I mean, in a sense, it's it kind of almost seems to be more of a struggle now, because what you had now that you didn't have back then is the advent of the powerful home computer, and now it's so many people are working on music. I'd say you look back 10 years, even less, that being a DJ was the big thing. Yeah. Now it's being a producer is the big thing. And, there are a lot of labels, and there's a lot of kind of not very good quality labels that are releasing some pretty substandard stuff, and so it's I think now, to be honest, things were I say probably 10 years ago it was probably a bit more localized. It was a lot more reliant on who was playing what and so and so. Whereas now, it's to be honest, if I was a new artist right now, I'd be kind of dreading it because there are so many, and it's so difficult to make your mark. But I say that's why labels like Hardware and labels with a long-standing history are important, because you can be a new artist, you can get music out on labels like that, and people will kind of instantly take notice, rather than if you're going to release something that's going to sell 300 copies on this little label that no one's ever heard before. It's
that just goes back to what you were saying. Basically, you said that it's a minefield out there, so that goes back to the fact that what we were saying about supporting each other, you putting out music and Hardware, and vice versa.
Definitely. Everyone helps each other with it, so it's all good.
Right, tell us about future projects with Hardware and aside from Hardware.
Future projects. There's a few. There's a few once I get them all done. I mean, first of all, there's an EP plan for Hardware, which hopefully won't take too long to finish. Aside from that, there's a link with Futuro on Inneractive, and then after that there's Hive Siren Remix on Inneractive as well. With Hive Siren Remix comes me doing a 12 for Violence. The old traditional swap. So there's quite a bit. I mean, I'm aiming it this year to be pretty prolific. Which makes a change.
So this is going to be this is your first EP for Hardware, isn't it? Cool.
Yeah, it's my first kind of. In the past, I've done remixes or album tracks. So this is it'd be nice to actually have a full release.
Well, big up, man. Nice speaking to you.
Thank you. Yourself.